One of the things that's true about LASIK that's not true about, say, ballpoint pens. There's probably a lot of differences, but one of them is if you're trying to buy a ballpoint pen, you just can kind of safely go with the cheapest option because they're all pretty similar. If you're somebody who works at Crystal or at Bic or Papermate, I apologize because I'm sure that there's probably differences that you notice. But in LASIK, there are large differences between different LASIK at different facilities done with different technology. It is not a commodity type of thing. And the reason this is important to know that not all LASIK is created equal is because it's been kind of commoditized just from a marketing perspective over the last 15, 20 years or so. You'll see billboards that'll say $100 an eye or something like that. I've never understood how those are appealing to people because if there's one area where you don't want to feel like you're at the bargain bin, it's with something that's going to permanently affect your vision. But the reason that some places are able to offer cheaper technology is not because they are doing it as a part of a free clinic or something like that. It's because they've cut costs somewhere else. And a lot of times that's along the way with the technology or with the care afterwards. So one of the first points on why not all LASIK is created equal is because 2020, not every 2020 is created exactly the same. Now mathematically this is not true, 2020 equals 2020, but visually 2020 it's not always the same. And the reason for that is there's two different pieces to good vision. One is acuity, and the other is contrast sensitivity. Acuity is what number am I at on the eye chart? I'm 20/20, I'm 20/25. That is 20/20. And so acuity by default, by definition, if you're 20/20, yes, you're 20/20. Contrast sensitivity is how good does that look. The interesting thing about how we see is that acuity does not play the major role for how happy we feel about our vision. If somebody is 20/25 in their acuity and they have phenomenal contrast sensitivity, everything is sharp and bold and clear, they'll really like their vision. If somebody is 20/20 and their contrast sensitivity is terrible, so acuity-wise, they're better, they're not 20/25, they're 20/20, but their contrast sensitivity is terrible, that person almost never will like their vision because contrast sensitivity matters. The reason that this differentiation is important is because saying that you're 20/20 is not the whole story. What matters is how sharp and clear it looks, and that's what contrast sensitivity measures. That has to do with the technology that's treating your eye. There are different levels of 20/20. And so when you're getting LASIK, when you're researching, where should I go to do this? One of the things you want to know is, what laser do you use? And one of the ways that you can kind of differentiate if you're not going to, go deep down the rabbit hole on every different laser company is it the wave front, does that show up in the word at all that you're asking about? Wave front has to do with making sure that contrast sensitivity is good. It goes into things that are way beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. And then also, do you use a blade? It's an uncomfortable question to ask, but it's important. LASIK with a laser versus using a blade, it's definitely in studies shown there's a difference in safety, there's a difference in vision, so that part matters. The second piece of this that matters is the diagnostics that go into the treatment. So diagnostics is the next one down here. Now what are diagnostics? Diagnostics are basically the imaging and analyzing technology that you use to figure out beforehand, one, whether this person is a candidate to have LASIK or not, and two, if they are a candidate, how specifically would it be best to treat this eye? So everyone's eyes are different. It's like snowflakes or people. Everyone's a little bit different and everyone's eyes are a little bit different. And so there are technologies and treatments that would be wonderful for one person and really not a good idea for another person. And the diagnostics that go into that matter a lot, because it matters the corneal shape that you have and the lens density and the lens thickness that you have inside the eye. All of those things, they're not, it's not this kind of checkbox, you know, are there 1, 2, 3 strikes going down? Okay, then you sort over to this part of the algorithm and then you'll have this procedure. There's some art that goes into this of looking at this as a person and this is their eyes, so that you're doing a treatment that's going to be specifically customized, personalized, so that they will have their best vision that they can have. That is possible by the diagnostics and honestly by the person reading those diagnostics. It's why it's really, really helpful to go to a place where that's what they do rather than it's just something that they do. It's a kind of add-on that you can, and you can have LASIK if you, put an extra $50 on there. Definitely don't do that. And then the last piece of this is just the treatments. So the treatments, there's a couple different pieces to that. One is the technology that a place uses, and that has to do with just how advanced it is. Are you using the newest, fanciest stuff that's proven? There's such a thing as stuff that's too cutting edge technology. And so you want to make sure that this is something that is the most advanced thing, and it's also not something that's currently in testing. And that stuff's pretty easy to figure out because you can ask, how many eyes have been done with this type of technology. So it's not just the treatment that you have as far as the technology. It's also the treatment as far as picking the correct thing. So there's different ways to have laser vision correction done on your eye. And there's different ways to do the actual treatment itself. So there's advanced surface ablation and there's sub-Bowman's keratomileusis. And those are all pieces that they're not your job to figure out which one of these is the best thing for me specifically, although they are your eyes, so you have the final say on that. But you do want to know that there's kind of this armamentarium of what we can do so that you can get a treatment that's the most suited for your eyes specifically. There are some treatments that we just don't even do at Hunter Vision because we want to be very specialized on a very specific range of things so that we're really, really good at that. And so if there's a treatment that we don't do, but that's going to be the best one, then we say, hey, you should go to this other place. And sometimes that's in Miami and sometimes it's across the country. But you want to know that the treatment that you're getting is really specifically for you. And that part is part of why not every LASIK place is the same. There's no need to name any names here. It's common sense to know that there are just going to be some places where their goal is how can I make sure this person will get surgery here. And then there's other places, and we're not the only one, but I'm glad we are one of them, where the goal is to make it the best possible choice for this person. The same way if this was my brother that walked in here, what would I recommend that they do? And when you do that, what happens is you've dramatically increased your odds of having the best vision possible after you're done.